What's up, team? This is Ro, your best friend at JMSB. So here I was asked a question for COMM 308, Introduction to Corporate Finance. Let's have a look. So here it says, Unitung Talking just paid a $2 annual dividend. Investors believe that the dividends will grow at a rate of 20% per year for each of the next 2 years and 5% per year thereafter. Assuming a discount rate of 10%, what should the current price of the stock be? So this is a very typical stock valuation question, and the way that I would tackle it is by first estimating all future dividends until the first dividend that has grown at this constant rate of 5% per year forever. And so to do that, I'd set up a table with one column for time, a second column for dividend, and a third column for the growth rate. So in this particular example, we're offered the dividend that has just been paid, so the dividend at time 0 is $2. And we are told that this dividend is going to grow by 20% for 2 years and by 5% forever thereafter. Now it's important to remember that when you're setting up this table, you always want to set it up until one time period after the constant growth rate. So since the constant growth rate happens in the second year, we're going to go ahead and make this table until time 3. And now on your finance calculators, we can obtain these future dividends simply by increasing them by the percentages that are offered. So I can simply press things like 2 plus 20% equals, and that would be the dividend for time 1. We can save that dividend by simply pressing STO followed by 1. And then I can continue the process. I can press plus 20% equals, and this will offer me the dividend at time 2. And once again, we can save that dividend by pressing STO followed by 2. Finally, we want to grow that dividend by 5%, and so I'm simply going to press plus 5% equals, and we'll get the dividend at time 3. And once again, we can go ahead and save that by pressing STO followed by 3. The next step is to estimate the terminal stock price. That is to figure out the value of the stock the moment that we have this constant growth rate of 5%, which in this case happens at time 2. So the idea is to apply the Gordon growth equation, which simply tells us that the value of the stock at any given time period is the next dividend divided by K minus the constant growth rate. So PT is DT plus 1 divided by K minus G. In this expression, realize that T plus 1 and little t are not calculations. These are simply referring to time periods. We always need a future dividend to obtain a current price. And so to value the stock at time 2, we're going to need to know the dividend at time 3. And so if I were to apply this equation, we could argue that the stock price at time 2 is simply going to be $60.48. Notice that in this example, the firm's cost of equity was 10% and the constant growth rate was 5%. The next step is to figure out the value of the future dividends along with this terminal stock price at time 0. In order to do that, we're simply going to discount each future dividend at the discount rate of 10%. And so if we work that out mathematically, we should end up with an answer of 54.55. Obviously, on our finance calculators, we can do that calculation by using the cash flow feature. So to have a look at the finance calculator, once you've estimated the future dividends and obtained the terminal stock price, we can simply use the cash flow feature to value these cash flows. So I'm simply going to press cash flow. Once I press CF, I'm going to press second followed by CEC. What that essentially does is that it clears the cash flow worksheet. For CF0, we're simply going to put 0 followed by enter. It's important to realize that this dividend that has just been paid of $2 is not part of the stock price today. And that's simply because if you were to buy the stock at time 0, you would not receive this $2 dividend. So it's important to be valuing the future dividends. Once you've pressed 0 for CF0, you're simply going to press enter followed by the down arrow. At this point, it's going to say CO1, and we can simply press recall followed by 1. And that's because we have the dividend at time 1 saved inside of the number 1. We press enter, we can hit the down arrow twice. For CO2, we're going to press recall followed by 2. So this was the dividend at time 2. And to this dividend, we want to add this stock price. So I'm simply going to add the stock price of $60.48. The reason we add up both those cash flows is because they're both happening in the same time period, which is time 2. We're going to press enter, and then we're going to hit NPV. Notice how I'm not valuing the dividend at time 3, and that's simply because the value of this dividend and any dividend after that is included in the stock price at time 2. So at this point, it's going to say I on the screen. You're simply going to press the discount rate, which is 10, followed by enter. We'll press the down arrow, and we're going to hit compute. So on our finance calculators, we obtain the same answer, $54.55. So in my opinion, the best answer here would be C, 54.55. So I hope that explanation helps, and if it does, please make sure that you're tagging your friends that are taking COMM 308. In the meantime, guys, keep well, study well, row out.